guy does lots of qigong and all the stuff. He teaches it, learned it in China, etc. But he still smokes. And he's like, he asks me, why am I smoking? And I said, you're smoking to remember to breathe.
Yes.
Your body's trying to tell
Yes.
you breathe. And then I'm reading this book on people that are difficult to hypnotize. And it says smoking is asking you to breathe. Like 2 days later, I'm like, because this is my world saying yes. So here's what it is, in my opinion.
This is Leadership Sound Bites. Real leaders, real moments, real growth.
Welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Sound Bites with two freaking special guests. April Wyett with Living with Intention, just got back from Japan. And so we were chatting about that before we hit record. It's an awesome place, awesome culture, awesome people, and awesome food. There's a lot of awesome stuff happening in Japan. And Chris DiStefano? No?
DiStefano.
DiStefano, thank you. I'm like, I want to remember it how you say it, but
yeah, you almost said it the right way. I say it the wrong way.
And then I went, no, you say it the right way. It's your name, dude. It's your name. Accelerated healing, as you can see in the program, specialist. And we decided to come together and have this conversation because a conversation that we had offline that was so just full of energy and excitement and a variety of topics that we knew we had to continue the conversation. So welcome to both of you. And I know, Chris, you landed on a topic or a quote on a topic that's going to start off our conversation today. So off to you, sir.
Oh, thank you. First, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here. It's great to be here with both of you. Second, I don't know if you know, I'm a hypnotherapist as well. And I just took an advanced course on it. And I'm particularly difficult to hypnotize. No, I have yes, the rest of life I'm difficult too, but yes, to hypnotize. And I was reading up on that, and it's interesting because combining breath work with hypnosis accelerates it for people that are particularly difficult. I just wanted to throw that in, but it does tie in because breath work is one of the anchorings that helps us to feel safe in our world. And what's fascinating is I believe that if I hear something multiple times, it's meant for me to pay attention. It's given to me like, hey, hey, hey. And today I was heard if two YouTube videos, and it's only in the morning, I heard you're going to be stuck until you clear this fear that's going to keep bringing you down. Because if you look at the Hawkins scale of consciousness, when we're stuck in fear, we don't have access to that creative force. Instead, we continue to cycle, and to develop discipline is actually almost a punishment for people because they need reward because they're so far down. As we get higher up, moving out of fear, we have so much more to tap into to really create and live our best lives.
I freaking love that because what comes to mind for me is I was coaching with a group yesterday, and it was scheduled group coaching, open enrollment. People signed up for managing stress and self-care. And so people who sign up for that are obviously feeling that. It's not a topic that I would have signed up for. And so what you're talking about too is people that are so stuck in fight or flight and that lower vibration that literally you don't have the basic needs met at that point, whether it's self-imposed or not, because it can be mental, to your point with fear of mindset and the approach that we take. And it was interesting to feel, observe, know the shift in energy, the shift in feeling and hope and possibilities that people had toward the end of our 90 minutes versus where they were when we first started. And I love the fact that when you step into that, you're opening just up to all these different possibilities. Yeah. April, what's on your mind? And I know, Chris, I feel it. You have another perspective to what I just shared. Because you have those nuanced perspectives. But April, what's on your mind?
Oh, just as exactly what you both are talking about with this stuck in fear. And that keeps people in that little box, right? And and we're in that box, it really limits our potential, our possibilities. We can't see anything past this, you know? And just as you touched into, Michelle, about the sympathetic nervous system, and Chris talking about the breath work, yes, this is what I'm all about. And so I'm really excited about this conversation and how we're going to unpack this, because people are, they're in that fear and the lack and unworthiness, and they cannot see their true potential when they're in that state. And having people such as us to support them to relax just a little bit. And I had a series with a client just yesterday, and we talked about, let's just make it easy. How would easy feel right now? And she just took a deeper breath, and she just said, wow, I really feel like the weight just lifted off my shoulders by giving her permission to making it easy. So
Mhm.
yeah, let's dive into this easy breezy conversation today. Yeah.
I love your guys' approach, and just stop me once I'm too far off the rails because I'm going there. Uh, First off, it was amazing. I was working with a patient the other day, and she wanted to quit smoking, and she had tried before with me, and only one visit, comes back again, and this was after a period of time, and it ends up she's depressed and she's anxious, and I'm asking her, and I'm like, you can't quit smoking. I'm going to help you to be able to love yourself first, because frankly, you need some sort of reward system because you're living in the dumps. And so we worked on her breathing because this will help her to quit smoking. She could not breathe abdominally. She couldn't engage her diaphragm because she was so locked in the sympathetic dominance. And she had tried in therapy to do it, and it triggered a panic attack. So I worked with her to downregulate her nervous system, and then she was breathing abdominally. I'm like, this is your homework. Because smoking, and this is the wildest thing. I was in this hypnosis class. This guy does lots of qigong and all this stuff. He teaches it, learned it in China, etc. But he still smokes. And he asks me, why am I smoking? And I said, you're smoking to remember to breathe.
Yes.
Your body's trying to tell
Yes.
you breathe. And then I'm reading this book on people that are difficult to hypnotize, and it says smoking is asking you to breathe. Like 2 days later, I'm like, because this is my world saying yes. So here's what it is, in my opinion. Number one, people that are difficult to hypnotize. I know this is not the topic, but it's so cool because
It's all the topic.
hypnosis is the entering into a trance state. Breathwork does it, coaching does it too. People that are harder to hypnotize are more attached to their trance story that they're living in. We're more attached to our own delusions than other people are. We don't want to let them go. So someone who is locked in fear, see, that's like lesson one to get on the ladder of ascension, is learning to know who and what I am in my relationship with the world. Whatever game I play, the world is an intelligent system that plays back the game that I'm playing. The board is the most important player. So the person who's perpetually and cannot let go of fear does not know who they are, does not love themselves, and is living in false delusion. They've completely disempowered and believed the story that society has given them without recognizing or acknowledging a higher intelligence, or what we might call divinity. And so they feel completely alone and abandoned. The only security they can seek is material, and it's always going to be out of reach in the way they're looking, because they're not looking for true security or peace. So there's a whole thing, and we do this in coaching, we do this in breathwork, we do it in everything. It's kind of hard for a person who doesn't know it at all, but yeah, building faith. Faith is the antithesis of fear. And without any faith in myself and what would be the higher intelligence, whatever, in my world, I don't see how I couldn't be locked in pathological fear.
What's interesting is, and I think the faith part of it, because the word hope comes to mind for me too, is people have to believe something different is possible. So whether it's faith, hope, whatever it may be, It's like the group that I was talking to yesterday, you can hear it in language that people use, right? That a lot of times what I hear is they're speaking in absolutes. Everything's changing. I never get da 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 da. I always da 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 da. And so part of it for me is, and because I'll make these statements, right? That if like if I know everything about your external environment, I can only predict 10% of your future happiness. It's an inside job, right? It doesn't matter what's going on here. It's how you're responding to it in here. And to your point, Chris, is have we given up and handed over the experience that we're having in life to whatever, or are we taking ownership for it and realizing I'm not a victim of what's happening around me?
Thank you.
Yes.
So yeah, and that's part of the conversation, is to actually intentionally tell people, and I tell them stress is a choice. What?
Exactly.
Stress is a choice. It's a warning, an indicator that something's going on. But how long do you have to leave your hand on a hot stove before you go, ooh, that puppy's hot?
I'm going to go
Yes.
further. Just to add to that, depression and anxiety are a choice too. And no one in it believes me, but on the other side, I can tell you it is. I'm sorry to have
Yes.
interrupted.
No, you're fine. Interrupt away. April.
I'll interrupt and I'll go a little further.
I'm
These
gonna
are
name that
just,
tune in 4 notes.
that's right. These are just stories we tell ourselves. And the mind loves to ruminate and validate why we're feeling the way we are. And when we can just pause and recognize that we have a choice, that we need to take responsibility for how we're feeling, and that we have that choice. And there's that 90-second rule that they say that the chemicals that are released in the body will only exist for 90 seconds when we don't feed into them. So something will happen. Let's say we're driving, and somebody cuts us off, and it's like, well, that asshole, blah, blah, blah. Then it gets us
Mhm.
stirred up, and then it reminds us of maybe a car accident we had, or maybe, somebody else, that makes us feel that way. And then boom, boom, boom. The mind, all these stories will just funnel in, and it fuels that emotion. But when we can pause and say, wow, I'm feeling heightened right now, give it a different name, give it a different direction, just being aware of how our bodies are responding, then that kind of lets the foot off the gas pedal or off the brake, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. And we can be in a more receptive space and acknowledge what we're feeling when we're feeling it. Recognizing it in the moment is so important. And I'm not saying the feelings and emotions are not important or they don't hold value, although, again, how do we want to feel?
Mm-hmm.
We all want to feel better. We all want to have life flow easy, as I said in the beginning. Let's make it easy breezy. Is this thinking, pushing against the wall, push, 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 and that fear, is that really helping me to feel at ease? Or is my body tensing up and telling me I can't hold this anymore? To
There
circle
was,
back to what you and Chris were talking about,
yeah,
because their bodies are amazing.
well, they are, and it's interesting because it's not complicated to get out of it. And that's what I tell people. It's not like brain surgery, right? They're very simple things to do, not easy to shift your practice. It takes very focus and intention. And then one day you're like, oh, I'm not having to think about it anymore. Right. So the cutoff thing, for instance, that was one of those things we talked about yesterday, was road rage. And if someone cuts you off, to your point, you're like, everyone does this. They always do da 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 da. You go into that space, right? And then you're flipping people off. You're pissed off. You're taking that with you. You need to, another, a day to unwind, which is interesting. But those are all choices versus because I'm going to say, we don't get angry and upset about what people say and do. We get angry and upset about the story we tell ourselves as to
Yes.
why we're doing it, the intention, right? Living with intention. And so it's
Yes.
like they didn't intend to cut you off. So what else would cause someone to do that?
Yes.
Maybe their wife is in labor and they're
That's right.
having to get to the hospital right away. Maybe they got the phone call that their mom's in the hospital. Maybe their
Mhm.
child is sick and they're stressed out. Maybe they're late for work and it's the last time they can be late for work before they lose their job. But it
Or
does
maybe you were
set you.
going too slow in the left lane.
Yes.
That's also a possibility.
Yeah.
It could
That
be
is a
me.
possibility.
It could be me.
Yeah.
It could be me.
I'm doing 50 in the left lane. I'm out to lunch.
Yeah, but I do have something to add here because I've taught this to so many people. Here is a very simple answer that can change, seriously, change everybody's life who's listening here about driving. And it is telling yourself, I have space.
Mm.
So that way, if somebody does, quote unquote, cut us off, that's even a perception there as well, right? You had space. They didn't hit you. You had space. I have space. Visualizing space all the way around you in your car, even if you're walking in your crowded area. Hello, I was in Japan riding the subway in Tokyo. There is no personal space there at all. So when you tell yourself, I have space, somebody opens up, takes the space, and then you just ease off the gas pedal. You don't have to ride up on their bumper and show that, that again is another, just a reactionary response. And so when you say, I have space, then it eases, right? It eases us. It gives them permission to have that space that we're providing. And so we don't become offended anymore.
Mm-hmm. I love
And then
that.
it's just as you said, Michele, oh, they must need to get to somewhere quicker than I do. I have plenty of space. And then we have more compassion for ourselves as well, because then we're not so adamant. And then when it happens to us, and oops, somebody's in my blind spot, I cut them off. So sorry. I raise my hand like, I'm so sorry. And then I remember, oh, that happened to me a few weeks back. So just giving ourselves some space.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's huge
Assume the
because
best intent. Chris.
it's not personal. We
Mm-mm.
make
Mm-mm.
it personal.
That's
And
right.
I do have to disagree with something that
Good.
you guys said, which was that we want things to be better or easier or whatever. That's only half true.
Mm-hmm.
The other half is there's comfort in the familiar, and it's not easy. And sometimes it's not even simple, because to break the pattern of the familiar involves sometimes being able to feel through the discomfort
Mhm.
to what's underneath it, to be able to go into the body, into the mind, into the story unflinchingly. It's pretty wild. I've been doing this fun dance lately, which is, someone asked me the scariest meditation I had, and it was that I realized I am the devil. And not in the conventional sense, I'm not going to put a cat in the microwave.
Yeah.
It's the identity that I created for myself that was protective, was based on a scarcity and separation and fear.
Mm.
So that's why I was a character. And in order to see that clearly, I had to face what was the most repulsive thing I could. That was the fear wall that I put up to sitting with it. And that let it lose its power over me. Because now I saw it clearly. I saw through, it was just trying to protect me based on the false beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to unravel. And the best part was, when I realized this, I go home, open up my computer. There was a YouTube video up that I hadn't even watched. There was a woman with a whiteboard that had, get in touch with your shadow self. And it had like the protector and the devil. And I was like, this again is how my world speaks to me. And the logical mind, this is probably the most important part. I was really good at logic, still am, but I don't believe it anymore, is based on an incomplete data set. The logical mind cannot account for what we would call a miracle, for what we could call anything that we can't see, measure, touch, whatever. So it gives us the best answer on pattern recognition from the information it has.
Mm-hmm.
but it refuses to take in the information that it can't see, touch, feel, hear, know. And so it gives us very limiting, imprisoning, and poor decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And it pulls us away from deciding from the heart. It pulls us away from the intuition and going into the safe prison, which further perpetuates the fear cycle.
Well, and that's what we tell people and let people know is the main job of our subconscious is to keep us safe. And it's doing it in very well-intentioned ways, purposeful, not logical. I mean, to your point, the smoking is meant to keep someone safe. It's a reminder to breathe. And people go, why? Oh, how's smoking safe? There's no logic to it. There's purpose. And so it's understanding that stuff. The thing that came to mind, and I'm glad you said it, April, when you were talking about we all want whatever, is similar to what you were talking about, Chris. We get addicted to the negative, the I'm miserable, the I'm in victim. I mean, and we don't really realize it's happened like any addiction, but we get addicted to that. So it is harder to break that pattern because it is like, this is my world. And that's what I tell people. If you get up in the morning and go, okay, here we go again, you've just put the same tape in that you played yesterday and 5 days
Exactly
before that.
right.
And so we have to declare something else. And so yesterday it was like, I was talking to people and I said, what magic are you going to create today? Ask yourself that. And the one guy, he said, I don't know if that would do any good in the tone of voice that I would do it in the morning. Like, what magic am I going to create today? And then he smiled. And I'm like, see, it works. It doesn't matter what your tone of voice is. It's one of those things that you're creating a different pattern. You're trying something different. And then your brain will open up along with the rest of you to what's possible.
Exactly. That's creating new neural pathways. You know, we're rewiring things and we don't recognize it at first. Yes, it just, as Chris said, you know, it takes work. It takes time. It's going to feel uncomfortable and a little messy at first. You know, although when we choose something that feels a little better. So I say to my clients, you know, we're not going to say to somebody who is struggling, right, with depression, anxiety, like, oh, I am free and I'm loved today. Well, if that doesn't feel accessible, if that feels way up here over your head, or, you know, like you're 25 feet underwater and drowning, trying to say that, well, of course, that's not going to be accessible. Although if they can find a way to find it a little easier of saying, I'm going to breathe just a little easier today. I'm going to remind myself where my feet are. I'm going to look for, I don't know, the color yellow, you know, just make it obscure to where it shifts out of that ruminating thought pattern to where it creates a different way for them to access it. It becomes a little easier and a little easier. And soon they are floating up at the top of the water and don't feel like they're 25 feet under, which I've dove 86 feet. And there's a lot of pressure down there.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you were scuba diving.
Oh yes, I was.
Okay, good. I'm like, I don't know how you didn't lose your whatever in that. Yeah.
So ease the pressure off of ourselves for sure.
Yeah. Chris.
What's fascinating is what both of you are saying. It's like I said, the patterns are familiar and the familiar becomes the comfortable. So my brother, who is still in the cycle that I used to be in, when I speak with him, he's actually said, and I'm better at the logic than he is, but he says that I'm optimistic and he's realistic.
Oh.
He says when we're looking at the same thing, all he can find is the negative. All I focus on is the positive. Why am I going to make that my consciousness? And I see my old patterns. Number one, would I rather be happy or right? So that logical mind trap that he's in, and he will defend it to the death because it's his identity to be right. And being right means I will not set those positive expectations that may not be met. I'll set the negative ones. And then if it doesn't happen, I'll be happy. When the truth is, I'll set the positive ones, I'll be happy. And if I'm wrong, big deal. And that was a conscious decision, choice, and repatterning, but it involved me being willing to step away from being right, me being willing to trust my world, me being willing to be happy.
Yes.
And it's one of the wildest things, and this is relatively recent. I was like, sometimes I wake up, I'm in a little bit of a glum mood. It's actually a choice. Am I going to let that ride, or am I going to turn that ship around and give my trillions cells sunshine all day, or are we going to sit there in garbage and just suffer? Well, that's a choice. Sometimes it takes a little work, but it's work well worth doing. And
Yeah.
so you two know I do that work with my body. I'll feel where the tension is being held. I'll feel where that is, and I'll release. I'll breathe into it. I'll release the muscles. I'll do something, because that frees my mind. People do not acknowledge the mind body, but we see it. That's all there is. And if you actually look, you'll see that stress, depression, all that stuff literally kills us.
Oh,
Yes.
God, yeah. You know, what's interesting is you reminded me, because there's times, it's like yesterday morning, my day started camera ready at 6 a.m. And it never fails with the 6 a.m. days that I am the night before, maybe I don't get to sleep on time, my mind doesn't shut down, whatever it may be in the background. And what I do now that I didn't used to do is, in the night when that happens, I'm like, it's all good. My body doesn't need as much sleep as it does. I'm basically getting all the sleep my body needs. So when I get up in the morning, I'm not exhausted because I didn't get the prescribed amount of sleep that I thought, right? Because the brain starts spinning. And then, but then I can move forward. And I had a client that I was having that same conversation. She goes, I'm not sleeping at night. I'm feeling this way because, I'm in pain and all the stuff. And I told her, I said, here's a hack. It's literally shifting what you're telling yourself, and then your body aligns to, we got enough sleep. And it makes such a difference.
It does. It really does. And even having the awareness to snap out of that loop, because when you're half in and half out of sleep, and the mind's going and all those scenario,
Yeah.
it likes to play a lot of things, even just bringing yourself out. But that is all that's needed. And then that's when you know that you are more of the master of your reality, and you see how things shift. And it's so important for everyone listening, everyone, here, to remember that, we need to place our attention on our intention. And I talked about that in our last call, Michele. And it's so important to remind ourselves that, we all have great intentions. We want to feel better. We want to have all these things, but where is our attention? And just bringing ourselves back, however many times it takes a day, just bring it back, bring our attention back. And then this is what just loosens. It's like a mangled up knot of things, right? And so it just softens and opens and creates a little bit more gap, a little bit more space, to where we can see through it, and it doesn't seem so heavy and pressed upon us. So yeah, being very aware, being mindful of where our attention is, because they say, right, is our wherever our attention goes, energy flows.
Yeah,
Right,
where
Chris?
focus goes, energy flows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris, what's on your mind? I've got some thoughts too.
So going back a tiny bit to the magic. What's interesting is my brother literally said to me, because again, he's still in depression. He's like, there's no
Yeah.
magic, there's no this, and I tell people, I'm like, I live in a world of magic. We have a Venn diagram. You overlap when you contact me. Otherwise, you're back in your world. And to what you were just saying with the attention, is there's a description of awakening, which is being able to stay in the state of attention, being able to be conscious and not in the trance. So yeah, exactly what. So April, if someone has to bring themselves back 1,000 times, that's 1,000 steps forward. And
Yes.
us giving ourselves that permission to love ourselves enough and an overarching theme having to do with this fear and the ability, like, yeah, I always wear red now in terms of my like my beads and stuff, because that grounding, that presence, that acknowledgement of the body. A lot of gurus or whatever say the body's not real. They're wrong. The body is the projection of consciousness here, and being able to fully love that body and understand that this is a dance with our world. We cannot be a co-creator consciously when we're running the victim cycle, when we're running the fear cycle. Then we're unconsciously just projecting our worst cases back in. And that awareness and free will we could debate, but intent is clear as a bell. Setting that clear intent. Yeah, be prepared for disappointment. That's fine. Be prepared that maybe it doesn't work, but what's the worst? At least you just put yourself in a beautiful, like, because it will work. There's just a time delay.
Yeah.
So
And it,
so
go
becoming
ahead.
attached to the outcome is not healthy, but enjoying the process is the fun.
There you go. Right there. Yeah, because everything's an experience. There's no mistakes. There's nothing wrong. We're just having this experience, and it's how we're showing up for ourselves.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I love how you said, Chris, that the body is a projection of the consciousness. You know, we are earth beings. We came here to have this experience in this material body. But we do have that higher power, that connection to our whatever people believe it to be, and how we're connecting with it and having fun and playing, as you said in the very beginning, Chris, playing the game.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not an aloof way. It's more of, oh, let's see what this happens. This is the curiosity. This is the openness. This is the this is an experience that let me just play that this is just an experiment and see what happens if I do this way, or if I don't say something to my partner. If I just pause and focus on my breathing, let them vent, I don't have to fix them at all. That's their plight, right? They need to do that. I'm just being here and doing what I'm doing, as you said, Chris, living in the magic and exploring. And a lot of people, they get kind of offended by that. And I'm curious to hear what you think, both of you.
It's interesting that you talk about that, because one of the subjects that came up was what happens in therapy. And so some participants have been in therapy or still in therapy, and you're rehashing all the negative whatever that got you there, the thinking. And I heard Dr. Joe Dispenza say a couple times that he has an opinion about that, because when we relive those moments of trauma or whatever's going on, it actually does more damage
Yes.
brain. So when I think about what we're imagining and remembering and what is actually happening real time, our brain doesn't respond to a distinction between that. It's gonna, we're in it again, it's happening again. And so instead of focusing on all the stuff that may have happened that didn't go well, or will put you in whatever state that you're in, focus on what you want. Step in and imagine what you want to be true. Moments that you're grateful for, that you can step in and relive those. So we did an exercise that, well, we did that. We closed our eyes, we stepped in. You're feeling what you were feeling. You're seeing, hearing who you were with, re-experiencing it. Those things ground us in the positive, to your point, April, is that we're focusing on things that we want, that make us feel good. And a lot of times, if you're not in a coaching relationship, people are like, well, how am I going to notice this stuff? Pay attention to how you feel with what you're telling yourself. And if it doesn't feel good, stop and go, you know what do I have going right now? What kind of words am I using? How am I describing this? What else is it? What am I actually seeing? What am I hearing, before I label it, right? Before I have judgment on what this thing is. And when you start flipping that, then all of a sudden you let go of these disempowering, negative words and how you're describing stuff. So you can step out of, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed. No, you're not overwhelmed and you're not stressed. There's a lot happening right now. Okay, how's that feel compared to I'm overwhelmed? You're not drowning anymore. You've just got a lot that's happening. And here's another thing. There's plenty of time to get everything done that needs to be done. There's plenty of time to get everything done that needs to be done. And when you say it over and over again, it's calming and it's the truth, because not everything needs to be done right now or today. And it's those kind of things that help people move forward and dig out of this victim hole that they're in, because life is not meant to be lived from a hole.
Yeah. Stop doom scrolling. I literally give people exercises. It'll take 5 minutes. I don't have time. How much time are you on Twitter? How much time are you on Facebook? How much time? You don't have time. When I'm working with people, and Michele, I love what you said about therapy, because yeah, therapy frequently, the way it's conventionally done, reinforces victim stories. That's why, it's great if someone's needs to be managed, they're at the edge of a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
But long term, I believe the way it's practiced by the vast majority of the profession is a perpetuation of victim stories. There's not that empowerment. A lot of what I do in my work is releasing the body, because the traumas are stored in the body. People feel lighter. They don't have to relive it. They just have to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to
Mhm.
even know it's let go. They just feel like the way it's conventionally done. Oh, poor you, that was done to you. And if someone wants, I don't like going into stories, but if someone wants to really bring it up, I'm like, okay, and you overcame and you're whole. If you continue to not see yourself as whole, you're going to continue to be broken. If you don't see yourself as overcoming, if you don't see yourself as growing, and a lot of the stuff is ugly, I'm not denying any of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure everyone's got a story that's, and some people's are a lot worse. But the fact is, I have a patient I work with, I coach her, and her husband grew up as schizophrenic brother and all this stuff. And she's like, he's like this way because of his brother. I'm like, the dude's had 85 years to decide not to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been societally disempowered to believe that we can outgrow that. But if we want to be creators, we have to own every single thing frequently. And if someone's not being coached, that's fine. I had a guy, one of the best things he ever told me is, why are you doing the negative self-talk? Why are you doing the negative self-thoughts? Really, you nailed it. If it doesn't feel good, it's not good. If it's not the direction you want to go, then why are you playing around in that? And as to like, I kind of misstated, but yeah, if I'm going to set positive goals, it's a lot like when I drive and take a shortcut. Anyone that's ever been in a car with me taking a shortcut knows what I mean. They frequently do not end up saving time. But a lot of times I discover some really cool stuff on the way. A lot of times things that I may think I want, I'm not ready for yet. I'm not in that vibration. There's still, I'll use the terrible word of lessons, but more discoveries about myself that are in the process of unfolding before I'm going to really be able to appreciate, enjoy, and responsibly hold whatever I want. And I have to love that.
I love that statement. Anyone who's been in the car with me when I'm taking shortcuts. Like, there's probably a list of people out there. I know exactly what Chris is talking about. April, what's on your mind?
Well, I'm still processing the shortcut as well. Oh, that was a good one, Chris. Yes. What I'm hearing all of us saying is people need to remember that all the thoughts that we have, they're not true.
Yeah.
Not to believe in those ruminating lower frequency thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And to remember that our bodies are communicating to us. And we can feel the difference whenever we're with somebody else, that, we feel alive and light and open. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I haven't connected with that person before. And then other people, or like the doom scrolling, where we just feel lower, 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 and that keeps us seeking outside of ourselves. So those people that light us up, we're remembering, because we're all mirrors of each other. We're
Uh,
remembering who we are. We're receiving more of ourselves in those conversations, because that's all we're looking for in this life. Those who are seeking outside, right? We're wanting more of us. And that's what I absolutely love, is co-creating with other people. It's part of the breath work. It's also part of the Reiki. And also, as we talked about Japan,
mhm.
people remembered parts of themselves when they had experiences on Mount Kurama. Even eating in the Japanese restaurants, they were just stimulated with the environment and the food and the people. That's what we're craving. We're craving more of ourselves. And that's why I create those retreats, and everything that I do is because just sitting back and watching, that is my joy. Sitting back and watching people expressing and connecting and communicating. And they're just so bright and open because they're remembering who they are.
Mhm. I love
Yeah.
that. As we wrap up, and I mean, we could go days. We're not going to, for anybody listening, we're not going to do that. Chris, what one or two things do you want people to walk away with, sir, from the topics today?
Well, it really is, it's a little complex, but that whole thing with seeing the devil in myself, that is
Mhm.
fear. When I'm making those decisions, the actions, the view of myself from believing what I believe other people view me as, that's a lacking of self-love. That's a lacking of honoring who I am. That's a lacking of knowing who I am. And frankly, that makes me phony to myself and to others. So, the main thing is, if we want to ground, if we want to prosper, we have to be able to ground. We have to plant roots for a tree to grow.
Mhm.
So really, learning to love who we are, learning to face that fear, learning to grow through the shadow work, and most importantly, through that cultivation of those positives, of where we're heading, setting that direction. Even if we change course, set it and start going, and enjoy the ride, because that's when you open to the magic, to the love, to the everything. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you. It's about courage. Because to your point, the fear, if I go back to the subconscious primary job of keeping us safe, is it's this illusion of safety. And so it is stepping through that. And that's why havening, we did it yesterday, it's like hug yourself and put your arms and down and say, I'm safe, I'm loved, everything's fine. And do that a few times. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you find yourself, feeling that way, and the monkey brain's going crazy, do that same thing, because it is the signaling of, Houston, we got a problem. I don't feel safe. You are safe. There's no hungry tiger. There's no big bad whatever that's going to get you. And so that's the important part of reprogramming conditioning to where you got everything that you need right here. You got everything that you need right here. Yeah, thank you. April.
Mm. I would love for people just to pause, even right now, if they can, and just take a deep breath. There's nothing serious happening right now, and finding an easier way to approach, right? As we talked about, let's make it easy, right? How be curious, right? How can I make this a little easier today? How am I showing up for myself? And just noticing the ripple effect that we create, whenever we're in that more of a present state. That's what emotional intelligence is all about. And being more aware of what we're holding and how we're interacting first and foremost with ourselves, and then that ripples out to the others around us. So yeah, take a breath. Nothing serious happening here.
We do get into the fight, flight or fight mode. And then people can get into that pattern, that cycle, like we were talking about. You reminded me, Dr. Ellen Langer, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about mindfulness. And her definition was basically paying attention. I'm going to say attention and awareness, right? Is that where we're be open to the fact that things are different than what they have been or could be. But she said, she referred to it as attention. And she said, when you know that you don't know, then you pay attention. And when you pay attention, you see things that you might have otherwise missed. And so it's one of those things is, are we seeing what we've always seen, or are we paying attention for the other stuff that's out there? Because our brain filters. Like if you just bought a white car, there's a gazillion white cars out there. If you're pregnant or know someone who's pregnant, everyone's pregnant, right? So pay attention to that stuff and notice the things that support what you hope to be true or what you're aspiring to be or what your intention is, and not things that validate the victim and the negative that weigh you down. And then you're going to start seeing all those other things because they're out there. You just miss them.
Yes, they're always out there, just like Chris's beautiful Japanese snowbird
Japanese
there.
bird.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I do love that snowbird.
And it is
You're
pay
awesome.
attention. The world
Yeah.
is always talking to us. And when you start taking these steps, this is super important. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Start small. If you don't trust yourself, and most people don't, you don't love yourself. Sorry to say it. Start small. Start with the little things. And when you start to feel that victory, that winner effect, that joy, then it starts to build. You don't have to be patient with yourself. That's one of the greatest forms of self-love.
I love that. And I think that's a great place to end it. This has been Leadership Soundbites with Michele and April and Chris. Until next time, I want to do this again. There's just so freaking many layers here. Have an awesome day. And until next time, please like, share, subscribe. If you have a topic, if you have a human that needs to be on this,